Hello, or should I say howdy, partners. Now, I'm not what you would call a cowboy. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of in the West, but I've been kindly asked by Michael K Vaughan to join as a co-host for the June on the Range BookTube event. This is a great BookTube event that's been going on for, I think, 4 years now. And I'm happy to be joining the posse. Now, ironically, while I've been a big Western fan all my life, that's been predominantly Western films and television shows. I have probably 150 Western films and maybe 50, 60 Western TV, classic TV series on DVD and Blu-ray. I've watched them all my life, as long as I can remember, from spaghetti westerns to more traditional town westerns to wagon train westerns, etc. I'm a big fan of westerns that way, but my actual physical book collection of westerns is pretty small. It's pretty pathetic, actually. In fact, we're looking at pretty much what I have right here is my westerns in physical form. I got a couple of nice Louis L'Amour short story collections, Volume 1, Collected Western Stories, and Volume 2, Frontier Stories, I should say. Collected Frontier Stories, Volume 1, Collected Frontier Stories, Volume 2. And, several books I'm going to go through here, plus quite a few on my Kindle. So, while I haven't got a large paperback or physical book Western collection, I do have, enough to be getting on with here. I'm very pleased to be taking part in this event. And while I might have only ridden a horse a couple times in my life, and, I'm about as much a cowboy as Shirley Temple, I do like the genre very much. Now, the Western genre is a very malleable and flexible one. All kinds of stories can be told in the Western genre. You can have family dramas, you can have mysteries, even noirish crime westerns, big epic sprawling westerns. You can have, big stories and really small focus stories. It's a really hardworking genre, and a lot of tales can be told in that genre. And so I encourage everyone who isn't a co-host of the event, but would like to take part in this event, maybe hasn't read a Western before, try it out. See how you like it. You might be surprised how fun they are. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what I do have and what I may choose to read from. Okay, now I have read some Westerns in book form in my life. Of course, I've read Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, amazing book. I've also read its sequel, Streets of Laredo. I believe there were 2 prequels, Cheyenne, is it Dead Man's Walk, and I can't remember the other one, Cheyenne Moon, maybe? Anyway, I've read all of those. I've read some Elmore Leonard. In fact, I have a few Elmore Leonard short story collections here, short Western stories, because Elmore Leonard, better known as a crime novelist for most of his career, certainly started as a Western novelist, and he was terrific at it. And, of course, I've read some Louis L'Amour, probably a good, half dozen to a dozen of his 100-plus books. And I'm always ready to read some more. I like Louis L'Amour a lot. And a few other things here I'll talk about. Why Michael K Vaughan invited me, other than kindness, I'm not sure. Maybe he just saw me reviewing some Westerns recently, and I am getting more into Westerns recently and planning to buy a whole bunch more. So I'll have a lot more in store for next year's June on the Range. But for now, I think I've got enough to be getting on with. So let me show you a few of the titles from Louis L'Amour first that I have, besides the nice Frontier Stories collections. I don't have the third one yet. I'm going to get that one of these days. I do have the adventure stories, but that's neither here nor there when it comes to Westerns. Louis L'Amour wrote a lot of different stories, but of course he's most famous for his Westerns. So what I have of his books so far, I have some of these nice Bantam paperbacks. Now, some of these I've read before. I've read The Ferguson Rifle. Michael K Vaughan recently reviewed this one on his channel, getting a little jump start to June on the Range. And of course, I myself recently read and reviewed, I believe in my March reading wrap-up, Heller with a Gun. Saw the TV movie first, but the book is great as well, and that's Donoghue. This was made into a TV movie in the 80s with Sam Elliott and his real-life wife, Catherine Ross. It was an excellent TV movie. I haven't read a lot of the Sackett's, but I do have this one, the Sackett brand, which is fun, especially at the end when a whole bunch of other Sackett's from other members of the Sackett family come in and join the main character of this one, who I believe is Tell Sackett, who's in trouble, and his other Sackett brethren, cousins, uncles, etc. come riding in to help him out because Sackett stick together. Now, of the 3 Lamores that I haven't read, these are what I may choose one of. I have Catlow, which I know was made into a movie with, I believe, Eilbrunner, but I can't say for sure. I don't remember that movie very well. And this one looks good, about 2 friends who kind of childhood friends that go on different sides of the track. One goes on the side of law and order, becomes a marshal or a sheriff, and Catlow himself becomes somewhat of an outlaw, but they still have mutual respect, and they have to team up to take care of some business in this one. Now this is, looking pretty close to the actual movie actors, the Shadow Riders. I've seen this 2-part TV movie with Tom Selleck, Sam Elliott, and I believe Michael Osterhage as the 3 brothers in this. The Traven brothers, whose sister and one of them, their fiancés, kidnapped by some white slavers, and they go in pursuit, take them down. I know of that story, but I haven't read the book itself. And then a story collection about Beaudry. This is Chick Beaudry, who I believe these are kind of mystery Western stories. Beaudry is I believe he's kind of a Texas Ranger, so he often gets involved in kind of crime-ish, noirish sort of stories, and still very, very Western style and theme and tone, but a little more emphasis on catching perpetrators. I've read some of these and listened to some audio versions, kind of dramatized versions of these stories from the past, which are a lot of fun. May dig into these. I believe there's about 7 or 8 stories in here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, with some historical notes. Of course, Louis L'Amour was quite a Western historian and did lots of research to aid in his writing. Now that's all I have of L'Amour. I have a couple of nice Elmore Leonard story collections. I'm missing the 3rd one. I must have that somewhere else. But I have 310 to Yuma and other stories. I know some people have these all 3 combined into one volume. So of course this one has, a lot of Leonard stories and novels were made into excellent films. So this has several stories, including 310 to Yuma. And there's a total of 7 stories in this one. And then I have Moment of Vengeance and other stories. And a nice paperback here, a Harper Torch paperback. And this one doesn't have any stories that I believe were made into films, but again, another 7 stories in there. I've read some of Elmore Leonard's short story Western stories, and they're terrific. No surprise there. Now, another fairly recent discovery for me has been the Larry and Streak, or better known in other countries, including the original Australia, where they were first published, Larry and Stretch Westerns by Marshall Grover. Here in the Bantam US editions, Marshall McCoy was the pseudonym, and they changed Stretch's name to Streak. Instead of Larry Valentine, it became Larry Vance. Instead of Stretch Emerson, it became Streak Everett. Anyway, these are 2 long time ranging around the countryside, getting into trouble. Texas Tornadoes, the Lone Star Hellions. Very fun. They have a great relationship, buddy bromance, and ready to throw down and help those in need and get themselves out of trouble whenever possible. I have a couple others in these thin bantam paperbacks. I got Hot Sky over Paraiso, and I have Gun Glory for Texans. Now, sadly, these are the only three I have, and I've read all three of them. So, but I do have several on my Kindle, and I have about 10, the first 10. There were over 400 of these Larry and Stretch Westerns published, and the writer was Leonard B. Mears. He was an Australian writer. He wrote about 700 to 800 books, most all Westerns, even though he probably never set foot in the U.S. He could write a Western as good as anyone else, really. He's an excellent storyteller, very good at sketching out some interesting and eccentric, colorful characters besides his two leads. And of the ones that I haven't read on my Kindle, I'm going to read, I think, Texans Walk Proud. And let me just read you the blurb about what you can expect in this kind of novel. Their names are on the bullets. Larry and Stretch, the West's toughest troubleshooters, came to Tyson City to solve a mystery, but their short stay almost became permanent residency on Boot Hill. Somebody wanted them dead. They didn't know who. They didn't know why. Riflemen sniped at them from the windswept peaks of the high country. A knife was hurled through an open window to miss Stretch Emerson by mere inches. And Larry Valentine was trapped in the burning shack by anonymous assassins. The Texans had never run from a fight and never would. They stayed to protect the beautiful Margot Fornall, to bedevil the confused Sheriff Jennings, and to trigger a showdown with the local lawless Lone Star style. These are short, punchy novels, probably 35,000 to 40,000 words most of the time, 9 to 10 chapters, full of action and character. Highly recommended. I'm looking forward to reading those. Also on my Kindle, I have a couple of series by John Benteen. Now, John Benteen was the pseudonym for a writer called Ben Haas, Haas, and he wrote several series, but the two that I have here, actually I have one in book form, and that's the Sundance series, kind of almost a men's adventure Western. Sundance kills with the hot-blooded fury of the white man and the cold cruelty of the Cheyenne. So Sundance is a half-breed, a mixed character, half Cheyenne, half white, or at least he's a white man raised by the Cheyenne, perhaps. I haven't read this one, but this looks pretty cool. I believe it's, is it the first one? This one was published by Norden Publications. It's a leisure book published in 1972, and it's called Overkill. I might read this one, or I might read one of his other series, which is called Fargo. Fargo is the character's name, and I have the first three of those on my Kindle. I have Fargo, the self-titled first one, which introduces the character, Panama Gold, the second one, and Alaska Steel, the third one. Now, these are also kind of men's adventure with some, little spicy sex scenes, but nothing like a long arm or anything, trailsman or anything like that. So Fargo, he doesn't dress like a typical cowboy. He wears, because he was a Rough Rider with Teddy Roosevelt, and so it's a little later than the average Western setting usually, and he wears cargo pants and khaki pants and two Colt 45s at his waist, and he carries a machete strapped to his back, and he's basically a soldier for hire who will get up to all kinds of mischief if the price is right. But he's got his own code of honor, and he tries to abide by it whenever possible. The pictures on the covers always, at least of the ebook ones, always look like the actor Lee Marvin. Lee Marvin was in plenty of Westerns himself. Really cool, tough guy actor from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. one of my favorite actors. And so it's nice to imagine Fargo being played by him. Anyway, one of those I'll probably try to get to. And another thing, speaking about Louis L'Amour, I did order another big pack of, a lot of 10 Louis L'Amour novels that look like in pretty good shape that I ordered from eBay, but of course they wouldn't ship to Japan. So they've been shipped and they're waiting at my family's home in Washington State. Hopefully my sister, she's putting together a care package for me with those and some other books. And hopefully those will come sometime in time enough for this event, come in middle to late June. And I'll hopefully be able to snag one of those Louis L'Amours out of there. And also do a book haul video, my first and probably one of the rare book haul videos that I'll be able to do, being in Japan and not getting a lot of packages. Understandably, it's really expensive to ship here. Don't do it too often. It's possible I might read a few short stories that were not in the Louis L'Amour or Elmore Leonard collections. I have a few, I think, in my big book of adventure stories. There's I believe there is a Hopalong Cassidy story by Clarence Mulford in there. I might check that out. I have also one last thing that I do have. I just recently bought, again on Kindle, one of those great Delphi Classics editions of Zane Grey. I think I have 45 novels in that set. They're all, of course, public domain by that stage. At least 30 plus or so are Westerns. Now, I haven't read any Zane Grey before, and I know that's one of the things that Michael K Vaughan and some of the others tried to encourage people to read, one Louis L'Amour and one Zane Grey. So I'm going to try to read a Zane Grey. I'm familiar with the story. The Riders of the Purple Sage is Grey's most famous novel. I've seen a couple of movie adaptations or TV movie adaptations of that. So I probably would avoid that one maybe, but I would like to ask anyone if you have any particular favorite Zane Grey books, novels that you'd like to recommend to me. Please let me know in the comments below and I'll look into it. I'll try to get to one of those. I'll certainly get to a Louis L'Amour of some kind. So until then, vaya con Dios, mi amigos, and I'll see you on the trail next month.